Yes, another good question. This is once per week, and the meetings are as long as they need to be. Basically, the check-in is just for you to ask any questions that you might have. I'm going to take a look at your grade and let you know how well you're progressing. If you're doing good, it'll be a very, very short meeting. The meeting doesn't have to be every Monday. So Isaac asks, is the meeting every Monday? So you have the option Monday through Thursday, and you can attend whatever day of the week you'd like. Although I recommend trying to come in either on Monday or Tuesday. If you have a longer question, I recommend either Tuesday or Wednesday, especially if you're looking for help. Mondays and Thursdays are the busiest days typically. Let's see. So another question, are the assignments on the Mount SAC website? Yes, they are. You'll see how to access everything in the orientation video, and we'll get that started in just a second. Yep, Trent, you are correct. That is where you ask questions. All righty, we'll get started. Just 1 second here. Another good one, how do you schedule your check-in time? You don't have to schedule check-in time. You just come in, and I'll let people in on a first come, first served basis. So just be warned that on Mondays and Thursdays, you might be waiting for a while, especially if you come around 4:30 or so. Last year when I taught in this program, I had some days where 100 people showed up all at the same time on Thursday at the same time. And even when I'm going through these meetings quickly, you could end up waiting for an hour, maybe even an hour and a half or 2 hours. So try to come earlier in the week if you can. And again, Tuesdays and Wednesdays are generally the days that nobody shows up for check-ins. So those are good days to check in. No, you don't have to turn on your cameras. Your cameras can remain off. That is perfectly fine. All righty, everybody. So no, you'll see what it is in the orientation video. You'll see what the program is. Basically, you're going to be doing homework assignments. I will tell you all right now, before we start the orientation video, get started on your assignments as soon as you can. Do not put it off. I've taught this for a few years now, and I've had a lot of students who waited until the last 2 weeks of the program and then get started on the homework. And if you do that, there's a really good chance you're not going to complete. There's a lot of assignments to do. And if you work on it a little bit every week, it's very doable. In fact, people take 2 or 3 courses. But if you wait until the very, very end, it's going to be overwhelming. So get started on the assignments as soon as you can. In fact, you can finish early. I've had students finish the program as early as a week and a half in. So if you're telling yourself that you're going to start late, don't do that. Start early instead and finish early, and then you won't have to stress for the rest of your summer. Alrighty, everybody, we're going to go ahead and get the video started now. So let me get the screen share going. I won't be able to answer your questions for a bit while we're watching the video. If I do, it's going to make a little box that's going to disrupt the video. So whatever questions you ask, I will answer at the end of the video. Alrighty. Let's get this show on the road. And welcome.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to your summer high school referral orientation with Mount SAC. First things first, please make sure that the name that you are signed into this Zoom orientation with is actually your name. Make sure it's not like your sibling or your parent's name. It needs to be yours in order for you to get credit for attending this orientation. This orientation is going to tell you how this course is going to work. You'll see on the screen here that we're showing this with a World History Semester A class. But please note that whether you're taking history, English, science, math, everything in this orientation is going to be relevant to you. To get to this homepage for your class, on your Canvas dashboard, you're going to click the little card for your particular class, and it's going to take you here. You'll see that on the left-hand side, there's a navigation menu. Sometimes students accidentally click this button that hides the navigation menu. So several of the buttons that are available here are also available here in the middle of the home page. For these buttons, you're going to see home takes you to the home page. You'll see that there's also an announcements button. Remember that this class does not have a time where we are all meeting at once. So anytime your teacher has something important to tell you, it will be posted here in announcements. Please do not ignore the announcements. Make sure you read them as they get posted. Over here, you can find your syllabus, which there's also a button here for. We'll go through the syllabus in more detail in a few moments. Modules is where you're going to find your work. You'll also be taken there if you click start here. Grades will have your grades in real time. It automatically gets updated every time your instructor or your teacher grades something. And then some classes will have a button that says more resources that'll take you to external sites, things like Khan Academy, that can help support you as you're learning this summer. Down here, you'll see there are two tabs, one with your instructor's information. Your instructor's information is going to have their Zoom link right here on the home page, as well as the information that tells you when you can find your instructor in that Zoom link. They'll be in there Monday through Thursday, 4 to 8 p.m. Please note they are not in there on Fridays, Monday through Thursday. Remember that this class is self-paced and there's no specific class time meetings. However, there is a mandatory weekly Zoom check-in. We'll talk more about that mandatory Zoom check-in in a few minutes here, but I do, just while we have the times up, want to let you know that if you ever join the Zoom check-in and you're waiting in the waiting room, even when it is during this time frame, it's just because your teacher is with another student. Please hang tight in the waiting room as they work to get to you. Also, please note that if you join right at 4 p.m., that's usually when most people like to join, so you might be in that waiting room for a little bit longer. All right, if you want to contact your teacher outside of this time, down here there's a link for your Canvas inbox, which is over here as well. The best way to contact your instructor is through Canvas inbox if it is not during their Zoom time. Please do not email your instructor. They'll be anticipating that you message them through inbox, so that's what they will be keeping an eye on. Here is the tab with your counselor's contact information. You can see on this orientation screen, there's not a counselor entered. It's just showing you where it would be. If you would like to ask for help on how you might pace yourself to finish the class, get clarification on enrollment or transcript questions, ask questions about future classes, or just have general help inquiries, that's what you might reach out to your counselor about. Going back here to the instructors, please just note that here, this tells you that if you would contact your instructor whenever you need to ask for help or get clarification on assignments, as well as when you're doing those Zoom check-ins. So just as a note, if you have questions on assignments, that's a question for your instructor, not for your counselor. All right, we're going to go now to the syllabus tab so that we can look at that. Your first assignment in this class is actually going to be to read the syllabus, but this orientation is going to touch on some key components in this syllabus. You'll notice in the syllabus that it gives you the date for the class. Please notice the final date for the course. I would also like you to note that that is week 6. That is Thursday of week 6. At 8 p.m., the course will close. Your access for being able to submit assignments is going to be cut off. So no work is going to be accepted after that time. 8 p.m., week 6, Thursday, okay? We cannot open the class back up for individual students, so there is no mechanism for us to reopen the course after that time. Scrolling down here a little bit, you're going to see that your instructor's information as well as your counselor's information will be noted again here in the syllabus. I'm going to continue to scroll down. Remember, you'll want to read this whole thing for your first assignment, but I'm just going to hit some of the most key points as I go. You'll notice that you have your grade percentages and policies section that will tell you your grade percentage weighting. It will also tell you your overall letter grade outline. Please note that if you get a D or lower in this class, it counts as a no pass for the class, and you will not get a transcript or grade record sent to your school. In order to get credit for this class, you must get a C or higher, and you must have submitted every single assignment in the class. If at the end of the term you have a C, but you did not submit every single assignment in the class, you will not get credit for the class. So just continuing on to with looking at these letter grades, one thing that you might notice here is that the weekly check-ins count for 10% of your grade. That means that if you don't do them, your letter grade will drop an entire letter, which is a lot. So please just continue to note those weekly check-ins are really important. I will talk more in depth about those when we get to the module section. All right, continuing down, I'm going to go to our academic honesty section. For academic honesty, it clearly states that plagiarism, cheating, and falsification are strictly prohibited. At your instructor's discretion, they can fail you for assignments and for the entire course. They can also refer you to Mount SAC's Student Life if you have engaged in plagiarism, cheating, and or falsification. So that is when you present other people's ideas as your own, whether it is copying or pasting from a website, or if it's submitting another student's work as your own, and working with other students when you have not been told that you are allowed to do so counts as cheating. Falsification could be like if you're having somebody else take an exam for you. All of these things are strictly prohibited. In this same vein, I would like to go down here to the generative AI policy for these courses. Using generative AI, including but not limited to ChatGPT, Google Gemini, Perplexity, is all strictly prohibited unless you are explicitly told in an assignment that you are allowed to use AI. I would also like to note that software applications that have things like Grammarly turned on count as use of artificial intelligence for enhancing writing, and they are prohibited. Use of language translation tools are also strictly prohibited. If you are using language translation tools for submitting your work, it will get flagged as AI in the system. So just as a note, going back here to academic honesty, plagiarism, cheating, falsification, use of AI, which includes things like Grammarly and language translation tools, are all strictly prohibited, and they can result in receiving a 0 for an assignment or a failing grade for the course, and or being referred to Mount SAC's Student Life. I'd also like to let you know that Canvas has built into it software that alerts your instructor if you are engaging in these kinds of activities. For example, for these items, Turnitin is incorporated into our Canvas system, and it will flag if a student is submitting something from a website. It even will tell your teacher what website things are coming from. It'll also flag if you submit something that is the same assignment that another student submitted. Down here for the AI, brand new this summer, we have an AI detector tool that is integrated to the Canvas Learning Management System, which is going to show your teacher if you are using AI. I'd like to just show you an example of how that would work. So here I have an essay that was written by AI. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to copy this essay, and I'm going to put it into something called GPT-0, and I actually already did it before I started filming this video. And when I put it into GPT-0, it flags the essay as being written by AI. I am specifically using GPT-0 AI detection software because this is the AI detection software that has been integrated into Mount SAC's Canvas system. I do often have students who get worried that their work is going to get flagged as AI even when they are not using AI. If you are one of those students who worries about that kind of thing, you can always go to the GPT-0 website. It is accessible to you, and you can put your work in there and you can see whether it's going to get flagged for AI or not. If you wrote it, then it definitely should not get flagged for AI, but that might give you some peace of mind because I know that some students get nervous about it. So you can always put your work through GPT-0 and it will show you what it's going to flag for your teachers because they have the exact same software integrated into Canvas. Okay, so I know that's a super fun topic, talking about plagiarism and cheating and AI use, but it is important that we note it. Scrolling down, technical problems in Canvas. You might want to write down this phone number and or email address that you find in the syllabus as you read through it, because this is who you could reach out to if you're having problems with Canvas. Unfortunately, your teacher cannot do things like reset your Canvas password. So if you have any kind of technical issues with it, that is where you could get help. Continuing through the syllabus, there is information on netiquette policies. If you've never taken an online class before, it might be helpful for you to note some of these policies because the classroom environment online is different than the in-person one. And then finally, there's a template that tells you some advice on how you might want to structure messages that you write to your instructors, counselors, and or tutors. You want to make sure that when you send a message, you are asking what you need to be asking and clearly stating things, letting them know who you are, and all of that kind of stuff. It will help you get your answers faster. So this is just going to support you with that. Okay, I'm going to move on to modules here. In my modules section, you will see that at the top of your screens, there is a section called Getting Started. You'll notice that there are forced sequencing for taking these assignments or for viewing things or submitting things. So please notice here it says Canvas information and it shows that this has been viewed. Then down here it says first assignment syllabus quiz and it shows it has been submitted. For this particular student, there's a check mark. Then you see here it says pacing guide, view, not viewed, but view. That means that you need to do this in order to do the next assignment, okay? So if I scroll down here, the weekly check-in forms are separate from your regular assignments. So I'm just gonna scroll down here. Notice this is grayed out. Nothing is locked for you. It's just forcing you to work in order. So the reason that's grayed out is because up here, you still need to view this. If I click on the pacing guide here, and I view this information, I read it, and then I go back here to modules, now you'll see that this says viewed, there's a check mark, and if I scroll down here, now I can start with module 1 for my work. So please don't come in and tell your instructor, like in week 2, oh, my stuff is locked. Nothing is locked. You just have to work in order for Canvas to let you access different items. So now we're going to look at a couple of different things, including a discussion, so that we can see how some of this works in Canvas where you're submitting your different assignments. I'm going to click on this discussion board, which is just a welcome discussion board. All of your discussions are going to have instructions and tell you what exactly you should be posting. And you'll also see that every discussion is going to ask you to reply to a classmate. That is part of your grade on discussion posts. And that's because it is required that students interact with each other in online classes. So this is where your student interaction is happening. If I click here on reply and I do my original post, so I'm just going to type in original post and I hit reply. Once I do that, any other student posts that have been put on this discussion board will show up. Please note that the discussion boards are set up so that you won't see students' replies until you put your own reply on the discussion board. Once you have you're going to want to scroll through here, find somebody to respond to, and hit reply. In order to get points for replying to another student, because that is going to be required on every discussion board, you cannot just say something like, I agree, or that's a good point. It needs to be some sort of substantive reply to the student that's showing that you're engaging with what they're saying. Now, on another note, you'll see that here on discussion boards and in some other places in Canvas, there are text boxes where you can type your responses, okay? If something happens to Canvas or your internet connection and this screen gets exited out for whatever reason, you can lose whatever you have typed here. So I do recommend that you might want to type your responses into a Microsoft Word document or a Google Doc file, and then copy and paste it into here once it's done, and then hit reply. Because again, if you're typing a lot of stuff here in this text box and something happens to your computer, you can lose what you typed, and that is like really sad. We don't want that to happen. So that's just a couple of tips. Another thing here is if I scroll up to the top, there's this little kebab button, and if I click it, it says show rubric. So this rubric right here is going to tell you exactly how your instructor is going to grade your assignment. They will click through different sections of this rubric to give you a grade. So always check out rubrics and see what they say so that you'll know exactly how you're going to get graded. You'll see them also on things like essays and science labs and all of that good stuff. All right, so that's a discussion board. If I go back here to modules, now you'll see if I scroll. In order to access Edmentum, when you click on the assignment, there will be a button here that says load, and it's going to load the assignment. Now, this orientation has a lot of information that we're throwing at you right now. So, because of that, in your classes, when you encounter your first Edmentum assignment, you'll see that there's a video above the link. Click and watch this video. It's really short, but it's going to show you how these Edmentum assignments work because they do work a little bit differently. Watch this video at that time. It's going to show you the Edmentum assignment so that you get that information right before you do your first Edmentum assignment, and it will hopefully make it all nice and clear and make sense. So again, your very first Edmentum assignment that you come across will have a video on top of it telling you how they work. Please watch that before you click and open up that Edmentum assignment. Okay, I'm going to go back here to the modules now. And we've looked at this top module. We've looked at some of how the assignments look down here in module 1 for this particular class. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit more about this weekly Zoom check-in. So please remember that this counts as 10% of your overall grade. That's a full letter grade. It is your responsibility to make sure that your grade is recorded for these weekly Zoom check-ins. What will happen is once a week, every week for the time that you're in these classes, you will need to drop into your instructor's Zoom at some point Monday through Thursday from 4 to 8 p.m. The check-in is not anything for you to be stressed out about. You're just coming in so that your instructor can see what your progress is like and give you, tips and ideas for how you can be successful. When you come into these Zooms, we do ask if your microphone is working to please speak to us on your mic. It can take a really long time and things can get confusing if you're only communicating with us through the chat. If your microphone is broken, we understand that, but using the microphone is the preference, please. After you do the Zoom check-in, you're going to come here and you're going to click for whatever week it is. You're going to click on this and it just takes you to a little form that you fill out to say that you did your check-in. This is how you get your points. Please note, if you fill out one of these and you did not go to your teacher's check-in, like you didn't go to their Zoom, but you filled this out as if you did, your instructor does check at the end of the week who came to Zoom and who filled these out. If you filled one out and you didn't come to Zoom, please note that that constitutes cheating. And it is at your instructor's discretion on how they would handle that, but do not do that. It counts as cheating. Okay, here's where you'll need to kind of tune in a little bit more to make sure that this next part absorbs, sinks in. So if you're taking semester A and semester B of a class, when you're working in semester A, you're going to fill out these check-ins in the semester A class. Once you switch to semester B, you will fill out the check-ins in the semester B class. So let me give you an example. Let's say that weeks 1 and 2, you're working in semester A. You would come here 1 and 2 in semester A and fill out the check-in. Your instructor, when you fill out those check-ins, will excuse the check-ins for semester B for weeks 1 and 2. Then let's say you're working pretty quickly, so by week 3, you're working in semester B. That would mean that week 3, you would go over to semester B, and you would fill out the week 3 check-in form there, and then you would continue to fill out check-in forms there until you finish semester B. So you're basically, just keep this in mind, whichever semester you're currently working in is where you will fill out the check-in form. Okay, so when you switch from one to the other, you'll start filling them out in the other semester. Your instructor is going to excuse the week check-in form for whatever semester you are not working in. Here's where it can get a little bit trickier. Let's say that you're taking U.S. History A with one teacher and Geometry A with another teacher. If that is the case, you must check in with both teachers. They will not know that you checked in with the other teacher. So you must check in with both teachers and fill out a form for each of those classes if you have different teachers. But if you have the same teacher for semesters A and B, you only need to check in with that teacher once. If you finish the class early because it is self-paced, you might finish, let's say, by week 5. If you finish by week 5 and you are all done, you do not need to keep checking in. You are welcome to, but you're not required to. Once you submit your last assignment in the class, your teacher will excuse any check-ins for upcoming weeks. If you finish your last assignment in week 5, you should check in for week 5. But after that, you wouldn't need to check in for week 6. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense. It definitely might be something you need to think about or rewatch this little part of the orientation video again to have it fully absorbed. Or maybe you need to ask a question or something in the chat after we're done with this orientation video to kind of make sure that fully sinks in. So I want to now kind of give you some tips for success for this class. Make sure you do the Zoom check-ins and submit these forms. They count for 10% of your overall grade. It's a great way to boost your grade as well. Remember that the class completely closes at 8 p.m. on Thursday of week 6, okay? We cannot reopen the class for individual people. Keep in mind that this class is meant to take approximately 24 hours worth of work per week for students. If you know you work a little bit faster or you know that you need a little bit more time, just keep in mind 24 hours is meant to be the average. Remember that Canvas runs scans for plagiarism and AI detection. So please do not tempt that and plagiarize and or use AI. Keep in mind that your internet might go out. Canvas has outages. That means you should not leave work to the last minute. Give yourself some cushion time in case your internet goes out in week 6 or there's some kind of Canvas issue. Anytime that you open up something that is a test or a quiz, please keep in mind that you must submit it. Don't just leave it open because it could time you out and kick you out of that quiz. So anytime you open those, be prepared for the fact that you need to sit there and finish it before you leave your computer. When you have any of these things open, these assignments, don't just leave them running when you go to, tennis practice or whatever it is. When you open these assignments, some of them do have a save and exit option if they're not a test. Make sure you hit the save and exit and don't just leave it running. It will not save your work if you leave it open for hours. Throughout the modules, there are pacing goals for each week telling you if you are working on finishing a semester within 3 weeks, it tells you where you should be at the end of each week. Use those to help you stay on track. Remember, if you send messages to your teachers or counselors on the weekends, it might take them a little bit extra time to respond. Like I said, if your microphone works, please use them in when you do your Zoom check-in. All right, a couple of final notes here. You're almost done. If you are taking 2 semesters, semesters A and B, we please ask, this is very important so that you don't get dropped from any of your classes. We ask that this week you do this syllabus quiz in any class in which you are enrolled. So if you're taking World History Semester A and World History Semester B, do the syllabus quiz for both classes. After you do the syllabus quiz for both classes, you can go back to the class you want to work on first, which should be semester A if you're taking the same subject, A and B, and work on semester A then, okay? We also highly suggest that if you're taking semesters A and B, do one and then the other, okay? Don't work on them at the same time where you do a couple of assignments in one and then a couple of assignments in the other. The reason being is, if you don't finish all the assignments in the semester, you won't get points. So you can at least make sure that you finished at least one of the semesters that you're working in. Okay, this orientation counts for your check-in for week 1. after you leave this orientation, please go to the week 1 mandatory Zoom check-in for the semester that you're going to work in first and fill out the check-in form. All right. Ask any questions in the chat here in a minute when I finish. If you have questions, you can ask in the chat and I will answer them. Again, make sure that your name is correct in this Zoom orientation so you get points for attending. And then one last reminder, in order to not get dropped from your classes, make sure that you take the syllabus quiz in any class you're enrolled in, like semester A and B. Once you do that, you can start focusing on just one semester for the work. All right. If you have any questions, let me know in the chat. If you don't have questions, you are free to go forth and start working on your work. We hope you have a fabulous summer with us. We look forward to seeing you in the check-ins. And we know that you're going to do awesome. If you have questions, go ahead and start putting them in the chat. I will start reading them. Otherwise, enjoy, and I will see you for the check-in next week. Have a good one. And one last reminder that this week does have a holiday.
All righty, everybody, that's it on the video. I got a couple of questions in the chat. I'll just answer them right now. So let's see here. Why is Module 1 locked? Module 1 is not locked. You have to start at the very, very beginning, the first assignment, and work your way through. Once you start at the beginning and work your way through, things will unlock. So you have to start with the first assignment, complete it, and then click next to go to the next one. Nothing is locked. Trent asks, on a scale of 1 to 10, how difficult will this course be? Not very difficult. I got to be honest. This is one of the easier courses that I teach during the summer program. You still need to make sure that you give yourself plenty of time to do the work. There are some sections that are going to be a little bit harder than others, but honestly, a lot of what you're going to have is group discussions and the like. As long as you're paying attention and reading the information, it's not that difficult. Yes, so you do need to do that first quiz, so make sure you do that opening quiz. Yeah, for the syllabus quiz, you want to take a look at the syllabus or even have the syllabus open. In fact, you can do this. It's totally fine. You can have the syllabus open while you're working on the syllabus quiz. I'm okay with that. Let's see. So for the discussion, you do need to reply, and you'll see this as you're working through your assignments, that you'll have a discussion question. You're going to respond to it, and then after you respond to it, you'll be able to see other people's responses, and you'll just click on whoever's response you want, click reply, and then respond to them. It'll be very obvious once you get to one of those assignments, you'll see what it's talking about. Another good question. What happens if you fail a test? If you fail a test, it's not the end of the world. You just keep working. I recommend making sure that you really pay attention to the material before you go into the test. None of the tests are tricky. They're not intended to be too difficult. So just make sure that you really pay attention to the material as you're working through it. How will I remember if a student has attended a check-in? So I don't have to remember. When you check in, I have a log that automatically gets alphabetized, and all I have to do is pull up my log and hold it side by side with the list of people who checked in. It takes me about 5 minutes, and I can check to see if there's anybody who claimed the points who did not log in. So you need to make sure that you check in if you're going to try to get those points. And by the way, the check-in, if you want to do a fast check-in, it only takes 20-30 seconds. You can just come in and say, I'm doing good, see you next week, and I'll say, okay, see ya, and that counts as a check-in. So don't try to cheat the check-in. It's not worth it. It only takes a couple of seconds. Let's see. Yes, this does count as the week 1 check-in. So you can go ahead and do the check-in now. You're good to go. Go ahead and get started on the assignments too. Let's see. Are we able to take the final early once we finish the course? Yes. So once you finish the course, you can take the final. You don't have to wait until the end of the class. The final pops up as an assignment just as soon as you're done with all of the other assignments. How many hours does it take to complete the course on average? That's a little tricky. I've had people finish this course in 9 days before. So if you work fast enough, you can easily finish within 2 weeks, I'd say. 9 days was kind of a speed run record. But you can complete it quickly. It's just a matter of sitting down and doing all the assignments. Can I work at my own pace? That's what it is. Just go do the assignments one at a time. That's what the program is. It is a work at your own pace program. So you're not restricted. You don't have to wait until next week to do next week's assignments. The next assignment is always available. The CRN number is available in Canvas. So if you go to Canvas and click on that home page, you'll see the CRN listed on the main page. I got another question. Does this count as the check-in? Yes, it does. When we do check-ins, how does that work? So it just depends. So if you're doing a check-in, it can be very, very brief. It could be a quick 15-second, how are you doing? Okay, good, bye. Or if you have questions, it's a time that you can ask me questions. During the check-in, I'll also let you know how you're doing on your assignments. If I feel like you're falling behind or if you're doing good, I'll let you know. It's just a time for us to check in. That's what it is. Do we get test retakes? So there are no official test retakes. If you have some kind of an issue where you get booted out of a test for some reason, if you have unanswered questions, then at my discretion, I might be able to open up a test for you. But if you get booted out of every single test every time to go in and try to get the answers, I will not reopen tests. So I will allow one retest, but you can't keep doing it over and over again. I've had people try to cheat that way, where they take the test, they write down all of the questions, and then they say, oh, I got booted out, I need a retest. I'll do it once. I won't do it any more than that. So the question, what happens if you do not use AI and it gets flagged for partial use? It depends. So the AI system, if it flags like a sentence or two, that's not an issue. But when it flags whole chunks of text, then that tells us that there were segments that were written by AI. There's students who use AI and then kind of sporadically put their own sentences here and there. That's not going to work. That's not going to trick the system, especially after you've turned in a number of assignments. The system is able to basically create an algorithm that can tell us if your writing style has remained consistent throughout the program, or if the writing style has shifted this way and that. And you don't have to worry. If you don't use AI, your writing style will remain consistent, because that's just how our brains work. But if you use AI, then, it's really easy to tell, because AI basically writes on an algorithm. It's basically a mathematical formula that it runs off of. So all we have to do on our end is take all of that text and run it as if it were an algorithm, and it'll come back and tell us either a human wrote this is a human style, or a machine wrote this. I have tried to mimic AI and put it into the system, and I have never gotten an AI match, and I've had other people do the same. So don't worry, if you don't use AI, you're not going to get flagged for AI. But again, use that Zero GPT to check and see. But just remember, there's more than one way to check for AI. And as you turn in more and more assignments, even if you use the same AI every time, different prompts are going to give you different writing styles. And if your writing style keeps shifting and changing throughout the semester, that's a really strong indicator that AI is writing the assignment. So don't try to use AI, don't try to use, any of those tools, because it's not worth it. Let's see, is the test multiple choice or essay? So most of the tests are multiple choice. You'll have to see, there are different assignments, but a lot of them are multiple choice style tests. Can we be excused for medical purposes in case of an emergency? If you have an emergency, just send me a message in Canvas and let me know. If you fail a test, can you retake it? Again, if you fail a test, I will let I'll make everybody a deal. I'll let you retake one test, but only one test for the entire time. So if you need to redo a test, just once. And I can see when I've let someone redo a test, so don't come in and try to pretend like you didn't already retake one. Yeah, and that's fine, Trent. Let's see. Do you have to submit the syllabus quiz this week? You don't have to submit the syllabus quiz this week, but the syllabus quiz is really, really easy, especially if you're paying attention to the video just now. So I would recommend doing it because it's quick and easy. But no, you don't have to start anything until you want to, but I recommend doing everything as early as you can. Let's see. Can I email you a question, or is it always on video? So you can send me messages in the Canvas inbox. I do get messages there, so you can just remember that it sometimes takes me a little bit more time to respond there. Depends on how many messages I get and when you message me. Let's see, can we always do another Zoom if we do a check-in already? Yeah, if you want to come in to get help, you can come back at any point in time. So that's perfectly fine. Let's see, for the first discussion, the rubric says it should be 5 to 8 sentences. Does this mean each response is 5 to 8 sentences, or the total amount of sentences? So that's the total amount. So the total for the whole response should be roughly 5 to 8 sentences. If you follow that rubric and you just follow it to the T and make sure that you do all of the things that are in that rubric, you will get a perfect score every time, as long as you don't use AI. And trust me when I say that these assignments don't take very much time. They're generally just asking how you feel about different things. So they are very easy. If you start using AI, and especially if you use AI and then put the text into Zero GPT and then try to make changes to make it sound like a human, you're going to end up doing a lot more work than if you had just done the assignment yourself from the beginning. Again, these assignments are not difficult, and you're not going to get graded on how well you write. You're going to get graded on what that rubric says. So clarification, you said that it's okay to use the syllabus as you take the syllabus quiz. Yeah, I'm okay with it. If it says otherwise in there, then oops, I guess you got permission from me. No, but I'm okay with you looking at the syllabus while you take the syllabus quiz. I don't see an issue with that. Are we allowed to use the syllabus for yes, you are. I'm aware I need to check in with you once a week between Monday to Thursday. Between what time to what time can you check in? So it's 4 o'clock to 8 o'clock are the Zoom hours. If you go to the home page, you'll see the hours are listed there right next to the link to join the Zoom. Let's see, for the discussion posts, would you ever specifically say, hey, write a paragraph, or should we just default to writing a paragraph for these discussion posts? You know, I'm not a stickler on the discussion posts. Honestly, if you want to, you know, if there's multiple questions and you want to give me like number your responses, like, you know, this is, you know, number 1 here. If you want to use bullet points, that's okay. Just make sure that you write in complete sentences. You know, don't just list stuff off. As long as you're writing complete thoughts, I don't care if it's a paragraph or not. But again, make sure if it says write 5 sentences, then make sure you have at least 5 sentences. If you take a look at what the rubric says, it's really easy to get perfect scores on those assignments. Can we have a friend or adult peer review our work or essays? Yeah, that's totally fine. If you have someone who, you know, is helping you, just as long as they're not doing the work, you know, it's okay to have someone help tutor you. Again, as long as they're not giving you answers, that's okay. To rewatch the video, I'm actually going to post the video on Wednesday. So Wednesday, I forget what time they asked me to do it. I think it might be like 5 or 6 o'clock. I forget. I'll have to double check that. But I will post the video for everybody to watch then. Is there a mock test shown in Canvas? No, I don't think there's a mock test. Oh, and yes, you are allowed to leave. That's a good question. Let's see. Nope, sorry, give me 1 second. I just lost myself here. Okay, now I think I got everybody. Did I miss anybody's questions? Feel free if I missed a question, feel free to repeat it. I apologize. There were things popping up while I was responding. You're welcome, Adrian. You have a great day too. Thank you, Isaac. Have a good day. And again, if I missed any questions, please feel free to retype them in the chat. And thank you all. Have a good day. David, no, the time difference is not an issue. That's perfectly fine. I mean, you can, as long as you can make one check-in, that's fine. And again, the check-in doesn't have to be a long check-in. I've had students that, were with their families, back in the Middle East and Africa and Europe, and, people on vacation doing this. So you're totally fine. Thank you very much. Have a good day too. Emmy, yes, there are. And actually, we're going to have another orientation in just a little bit here. Let me double check and see what time. I think the next orientation is going to be at 5:30. Yes. So if you want to check back in about 40 minutes, Emmy, we'll replay the video at 5:30 and 7 o'clock tonight. Yes, I do recommend it, Emmy. If you don't watch the video, you might end up having a lot of questions. A lot of times I have students who skip the video and end up missing some really important stuff. So make sure that you do that. Yeah, so all of the assignments are in there. So as long as you go through one by one and just keep clicking next to the next assignment, all of the assignments will pop up. Yes, Emmy, same link. So yeah, just come back at 5:30, and don't worry, the video is only about 25 minutes long, I think, and you can go as soon as it's done. Alrighty, everybody, any other questions? Okay, if you have any other questions, feel free to type them in the chat. Otherwise, have a good evening, and I will see you next week.